Check, check. The recording has begun, and we haven't really talked about anything yet, so that's good. Seems like the last few times I've been starting at mid-sentence. So anyway, my my first question to all of you is, do you have any questions for me? And then I'd like to talk about an idea that I have for adding on a little bit of a research opportunity for everybody. It'll be a minor thing, not a major thing, but it would be kind of fun because I look at a lot of the writing that people are contributing to the forums, and I keep suggesting throughout the weeks that this would be a good opportunity for you to research something. And I keep thinking that instead of just suggesting, I would like to add an assignment. It won't be for a couple of weeks, and it will be due near the end of the semester. So there's plenty of time, and I'll make sure everybody understands exactly what we're going to do. But I thought I'd just kind of bounce that off you guys and get your feedback. So sound like fun?
That'd be cool. I mean, what do you mean by research?
Well, good question. My idea is choose a specific artist or artists, but primarily one artist that you would like to know more about. Maybe it could be someone that we've already read about or seen a video about, or it could be someone that we haven't discussed. And then you'd have the opportunity to learn more about that person, dig into their influences, look up their discography, which would be, see what recordings were made, who was involved with those recordings, their backgrounds, talk about the people who influenced them. We know that big artists like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, they influenced a lot of different people. So I would recommend that you choose somebody who wasn't a big influencer necessarily, but someone who had some notoriety anyway. I mean, you could talk about, for example, someone like Bix Beiderbecke, who did not really influence a lot of people, and that's just an example, but he was influenced by other people. So when you do this assignment, you would talk about the people who influenced that particular artist, how their influences affected their performance, that type of thing. I mean, there's even examples where you had people like Charlie Parker, who we haven't studied yet. Let me let Jasmine in. Someone like Charlie Parker, who, hey Jasmine, who was influential in somewhat of a negative way because he was particularly hampered by his drug addiction. And strangely enough, the drug of choice for Charlie Parker ended up becoming influential to other jazz musicians who thought, whoa, well, if Charlie Parker can improvise so well on cocaine or on heroin, maybe I should try it too. And so in some ways, Charlie Parker was a negative influence on those individuals. Even some individuals who tried it and got addicted like he did, but then were able to kick the habit later on and actually talk about how it really didn't help them at all. but there were a lot of players who thought, well, shoot, you know, if that person is using uh, that drug and they're playing so well, maybe I should try it too. Jasmine, we're talking about an idea that I have for a writing assignment for the class, um, of choosing an artist and talking about the their influences, the people who influence them, talking about the people that they influenced later on, um, getting a little bit more in depth into, you know, one particular person who you feel you would like to learn more about.
Super
This,
cool.
go ahead.
I think that's super cool because I feel like during this, I didn't think I would get so into the specific musicians themselves. And it was just going to be basically just, you know, jazz overall. But now it's like, it's really the people that are forming it. And if you don't really understand these individuals, you're not going to really understand the truth behind jazz music. So I think that'd be really cool. And I'd like to be able to read everybody's responses and see if we all chose different people, even people we haven't even heard about on, you know, the films and stuff. It'd be super cool.
Right, right. That's what we've been talking about. I'm thinking that this would be a writing assignment that wasn't like part of a discussion board, but actually something that people would submit, um, and then, but in the process of deciding who's going to write about what, I mean, it's very possible that some people will choose the same artist, but we'll set that up as a forum first, you know, and people can talk about who they'd like to research. Um, and it'll be I'm thinking a fairly small writing assignment, 300 to 500 words, that would include a little bit of research. And I'll make sure that everybody has access to the easiest research database that we have available to us on campus, which is through our library. We actually have a really good resource, which is the Oxford Jazz Dictionary of Music and Musicians, and it's free, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's not spurious like going to Wikipedia or something. So it's documented, you know, it's peer reviewed, so that the things that you're reading are going to be truthful. And there will be a number of different articles that you can read, plus there will be bibliographies if you want to be, you know, be more in depth. And we were talking before you came in about also including a discography, which I always find helpful because a discography allows you to see what recordings they made. And one of the, I mean, there's lots of different ways to do that, but we've been using Spotify for our listening, and you can actually go to Spotify and type in a person's name, and it will come up with all kinds of recordings. It may not be complete, but it will be a lot that you didn't have, and certainly more than we used to have when I was your age. Because I mean, research was really a lot more difficult when I was doing this type of thing as an undergrad, because there were no online resources. There was nothing at all like what we have today. And you'd go to the library and pull out the card catalog. And I mean, for people, I don't even know if you've ever used a card catalog, because it's not used anymore. You know, the Dewey Decimal System and all that stuff just is not part of our language. So anyway, I knew, or at least I suspected, that the people who would be here today would probably be open to doing this type of thing and excited to have this opportunity. Problem is that we just don't have as many people participating in this as I would like, and I know that we can't make it mandatory because it's an online class, and we get as many people participating as we possibly can. So anyway, so that was one of the things that I had hoped to get feedback on. It sounds, at least from the three of you, that you feel pretty positive about it. It's not it's not one of those things that's going to take too much of your time, and there's plenty of time to do it, because it's not going to, I'm not going to give you the assignment and say, oh, it's due next week. You'll have a few weeks to get it done, because at first, like I said, we want to have it as part of a discussion so that people can say, yeah, this sounds like a person I'd like to research. And then that might trigger someone else's response, say, oh yeah, well, that person played with that person, you know. Last night when I was just testing out the research database, I just typed in Chick Webb, and there's all kinds of great information on Chick Webb, who I think what triggered that was somebody's response in the forum earlier about I guess Glenn Miller and Stomping at the Savoy, and there's some great recordings that where you can compare bands playing the same literature, which is really cool. Like Glenn Miller playing Stomping at the Savoy at his Carnegie Hall performance. We've got the definitive recording of that live recording of the Glenn Miller Band playing at Carnegie Hall, the first jazz band ever to play at Carnegie Hall, which was a major coup for that band. And did I say Glenn Miller? I meant Benny Goodman. Did I say Benny Goodman? I don't remember which. Benny Goodman, not Glenn Miller. Benny Goodman. So Benny Goodman played Stomping at the Savoy at Carnegie Hall, but then there's some really completely different renditions of that. Chick Webb's band being one of them. Chick was a drummer. I don't know if you remember reading about him yet. Did we read about Chick Webb yet, or anything? No? No, okay. Anyway, Chick Webb was this amazing drummer, very short in stature. He was little, and he struggled with, what did they call it? Spinal pneumonia or something like that. He had a childhood illness, not pneumonia. Shoot, I can't remember the name of the disease. But anyway, his spine was disfigured, and he didn't grow to be very big. But he was a monster drummer, and he had a band, and they played. In fact, he was one of the house bands at the Savoy, which was a big dance hall. And so his band was noted for their really fast tempos. I mean, just crazy fast. And he used to invite other bands to come, and they would have like these battle of the bands type things. And as the drummer, he just drove that band because, you know, he was responsible for the time. So anyway, there's an artist that, you know, might be of some interest to somebody who really is interested in drummers. Other people might want to choose maybe a saxophone player or a trumpet player, or who knows, clarinet, trombone. There's all kinds of stuff, and I can make recommendations. I mean, if people are struggling with making a decision, I can say, well, you know, what instrument interests you the most? Or maybe there's a period that you're more interested in. Like maybe you want to research some players from the cool era or the bebop era, or because we're getting into those. I mean, right now we're still in the swing portion, but we'll get through the 60s into maybe the early 70s with our study this semester. So there's all kinds of stuff out there. So I mean, you could even type into Google's, you know, and you could say great jazz flute players, and that would trigger something. Oh man, Jean-Pierre Rampal, I didn't know that he did that. Or Hubert Laws, he's a great flute player. I didn't realize that. So there's that kind of thing that we could do. So hopefully this will be fun. It won't be tedious. It'll actually be a great learning experience um, and not too strenuous for everybody. Yeah. So what's going on in your lives academically? How's school? School is good. Sophia's like having a great time. Andrew's great. Jasmine, you're still
It's
taking voice lessons.
yes. School is good. It's just I keep saying this just to motivate myself to want, especially for my business law class, like it's so hard to learn online and when it's just like read a chapter, but the chapter is so long.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Um, so because I'm such an interactive person, so it's hard to be adjusting to that and feel like I'm getting the same quality. Um,
Yeah.
but that's why I kept saying with your class, it's so different because of the tools that are put in the course. Like watching those documentaries really is like one of my highlights of the week because I don't think there's information where else I've seen so far. And it just really puts it into such good visualization for me. So,
Well, that's good to hear. And I've been thinking about the next time I offer this class. I usually only offer it once a year, um, but the next time I do it, I think it should be offered more as a hybrid because I I really enjoy this type of interaction and being able to, do shorter lecture type things. I know that lecturing online like this can be kind of a drag when you're staring into a screen, but if they're short enough and they're done in a way that can be more interactive, I think the class would actually be better. It'll be enhanced that way. Um, because I get to Fridays and I feel like, man, I didn't have any connection with people. I try to respond to what the people are writing as much as I can, and I'm enjoying that part too because I love to read what people have to say. Some really interesting insights. I don't know if you get a chance to read everybody's stuff, but there's a guy in the class whose name is Hevwar, Hevwar. Do you recall reading any of his stuff?
I'm
Maybe not.
I mean, I read through them. I just can't remember who writes.
Yeah, well, he has some really great insight. He strikes me as being someone who's a little older. I don't know exactly. I've never really had a chance to see him face to face, but his writing, he writes from, it seems like he writes from a place of having lived on the earth a little bit longer than someone who's just a typical 18, 20-year-old college student. So you should see if you can get in there and see some of the things that he writes. He's very perceptive. I've also I think Quincy has some really good insight into some things. So um, I hope that you get an opportunity to spend some time reading some of the other stuff, which is my favorite part of the week because I get to go in there and I see what people have written. A lot of times people wait to write, which is fine because you have until Sunday at 11:59 to do that. But I try to catch things midweek and then maybe later on Fridays before so that I can see what people are writing and comment on that. Make sure that people get some feedback from me, and do take the opportunity if you're not already commenting on what other people have to say, even if it's just to encourage them or to agree with them. That type of thing is very helpful because everybody needs to be affirmed in some way to say, man, I was on the right track, or I struck a chord with this person as well. So I hope you'll do that. If I know, obviously you guys are because you're participating, which is awesome. So tell me, Jasmine, you were saying you're in this business law class. what is that all about, and why are you in it?
So I'm currently going for a business degree, and um, I mean, business law is just like learning about contracts and torts and criminal, all of that. And it's kind of hard to just like soak it all in at once. But I'm in it because at first I thought I wanted to be a business major and start my own like tap company, like nonprofit. And then I'm like, well, look at the world right now. This is not the best time to start something up. And ever since I started getting involved with the theater department, taking some classes, and then here with voice lessons in the music department, I'm like, wow, I'm much more interested in this.
Hey, you know what? There is a great degree that you might be interested in. We don't offer it at the community college, but what you're doing right now could lend itself very well to a degree in music and entertainment business.
Mm,
There's Ferris State University offers this degree. It's music entertainment business, and of course, it's a business degree. It's not a music degree, but
mhm.
having an interest in music or theater or any type of entertainment might be a great path for you. So
Yeah,
um,
that.
what we can do is you can send me an email and I'll connect you with Paul Quant. That's his name, Paul Quant at Ferris, and you can ask him about the program. Or if you want to go out of Michigan and travel to the center of music in the country, which is Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm,
Nashville is one of the recording capitals of the world, you know, and you could travel to Nashville and go to Belmont University, and they have a very, very good music business degree.
wow, I didn't even know that was really a thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of people who make a living representing talent,
Mhm,
who are, you know, like music lawyers and entertainment lawyers, that kind of thing.
mhm.
There's all kinds of opportunities for that.
That's awesome. Thank
So
you.
yeah, send me a note and I'll put you in touch with folks like that. How about you, Andrew? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Um, so I'm going to school for computer science to go into IT tech. But the reason I'm taking this class is just because of my interest of jazz band has grown over
Right.
high school up until now. So I figured I might as well learn more about it.
Yeah, man. Did we talk about you playing in the jazz band at all?
Yeah, yeah. Right now there's a class conflict for me with that,
For
but
next semester too?
uh, I'd have to look, but I think there might be just with the
Okay.
way my classes are scheduled.
Yeah. It's always on Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoons in the late afternoon. I think it starts at 4:30. Yeah, 4:30 to 5:30 twice a week. And if you can do it, be awesome. I'll put you in touch with Mr. Mahevich. He's our band director, and you guys can talk about it.
I'll see him on Tuesday because I'm in the wind ensemble.
Oh, shoot. Duh. Yeah, we'll talk with him. Yeah, in fact, the health department gave us the go-ahead to rehearse in person again.
Okay.
So that's going to be nice. You're going to have to put a slit in your mask.
Okay.
So that's the new rule. The health department says wear masks, cut a slit in the mask, and then stick your mouthpiece in there. So, okay, we'll do what they tell us. But anyway, so when you talk about computer tech, do you want to, what kind of stuff? Like writing
Um.
code or?
Uh. Help desk kind of stuff.
Huh,
Um. A little programming, yeah. But other than that, just mainly help desk.
I see. My nephew went to Central Michigan for IT cybersecurity. And I think his first couple of jobs were help desk type stuff. In fact, he worked up, his very first job was at Lake Superior State University right after he got out of college. That's as north as you can possibly go.
Right.
And just freezing cold up there during the winter. But yeah, his first job was there. He lasted about a year, not quite. It was just too cold for him. And then he came back down here and worked for a startup. And now he's got a great job working out of the Detroit area, but he'll be traveling. He'll be doing a lot of international work as a cybersecurity guy. So I know we have a cybersecurity degree or something like that. Drew, what's Drew's last name? I think he's head of the computer department. Do you know who that is?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I can't remember his last name. His first name is Drew. Anyway, cool. So who knows? You might even be able to get an internship here at Grand Rapids Community College because our help desk is always. In fact, maybe you know this guy. What's his name? He was a music major. Gosh, my brain. Anyway, I do know that we've had students come through our program who then work in the help desk. In fact, I know of one right now, and I just can't think of his name. He got his degree in piano, I think, and he's currently working with as a technician. In fact, he's come to my office and worked on stuff in my office. So anyway, so that's an opportunity. Cool. Sophia, now I get to hear more about you. What are you doing?
I'm just getting my gen eds done here, and then I'll be transferring to MSU for
Go green! Sorry. So you're going to MSU for what? I'm sorry.
psychology.
Ooh. So are you taking some psychology classes here?
No, not at the moment because I have to make sure all my gen eds are done first.
Sure. So you're completing the MTA? Is that
I
what you're
believe
doing?
so. Yeah.
That's the Michigan Transfer Agreement is just gen eds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So this is meeting one of your humanities requirements.
All right.
Cool. What are you going to do for your next humanities?
I
Music.
think like I haven't really decided yet. I think I'm just gonna look and see at some point.
Sure.
I haven't really decided yet.
Well, cool. If you do take any, because actually psychology could be one of your gen eds.
Yeah, I believe so.
Like, intro to psychology or one of those things. Actually, you should talk to this guy anyway. He's head of our psychology department. His name's Frank Connor, Dr. Connor. Talk to him about the transfer to MSU because he also is an MSU alum. So he went there.
Okay.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but my son got married a couple of weeks ago. He got married at MSU in the Rose Garden. He and his now wife were both students there. And I did my doctorate work there, and my wife did her graduate work there. So we have lots of green and white running through our veins. But anyway, yeah, if you think of it, connect with Dr. Connor from the psychology department because he could certainly be helpful to you. Yeah, cool. So now that we've talked about that, kind of rambled, I want to hear from you about the video because the video was just kind of chock full of stuff. and all kinds of information. I think when you first came in, Jasmine, we were talking about Chick Webb and the Savoy Ballroom and all the different places where people could hear music in New York, and they talk about that a lot in the video. So just whatever's on your mind as far as what really stuck in there that you'd like to share. Doesn't have to be poignant, but if there's something like, wow, man, this one thing really was cool, or I didn't quite understand what they were talking about, or anything like that. I mean, you could focus on, I'll be quiet, go ahead.
Oh, I wrote down several things that I wanted to talk about because I was like, last time I just couldn't remember. But the first thing I noticed was how cool that Savoy place, the Savoy, was, and how much I wanted to be able to go there, personally. And hearing that story about that woman, she was like a little girl at the time, and who picked her up? It was
Oh, shoot. Yeah, it was one of the players. I'm trying to remember who that was.
and he picked her up, and they danced,
Excuse me.
and then he dropped her right off outside, and just seeing how, I mean, how big of a deal that was, even to kids back then, was super cool.
Yeah, I think it was someone who was a dancer, who was a regular dancer. That's who it was. Because they actually had people who were kind of semi-professional dancers who came in and.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, what I was saying was that she ended up becoming a dancer at that place, and she has those great memories. Yeah. Yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity for all these different bands to be featured. But of course, the people who got to listen were important. But all the different bands, we were talking about Chick Webb, but also other bands that were able to be featured. Benny Goodman played there. Glenn Miller played there. So there's lots. It was really one of those foundational locations for people, kind of like the Cotton Club was for Duke Ellington.
Yeah, and like what I thought was really neat is the community within each jazz band. Like in between, when one band would be exiting the stage, the next would continue playing that song, so there was never a break. And I thought that was super duper very cool, because yeah, you don't want people to stop dancing. And during the Depression, seeing how jazz music, it's so combined with dance that it brought that spirit up, that if people were able to have that response, then they could kind of forget about what was going on around them for a time.
Yeah, I mean, this music, and then, as we talk more about the swing era, this music was the popular music of the day. And it was really the only time when jazz was the music of choice for most people. The recordings that they were buying, and the music that they were listening to on the radio was jazz. It was the music that people listened to. And of course, the younger generation, the people who were going to the Savoy Ballroom, their reaction to this type of music was very much the same as, let's say, the reaction of people my age to the Beatles, or Chuck Berry, or any of those rock and roll icons, like the Rolling Stones, or any of those groups that were very, very instrumental in the rock era of rock and roll, I should say, in the in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. And that music is the reason that, at least in my opinion, the reason that the music of the 40s, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, which was basically swing, that popular music ended when rock and roll came onto the scene. And the younger generation, my generation, instead of listening to jazz, started listening to rock and roll. And that was the music that we danced to. And Jasmine, you nailed it. It was dance music. And dance music has always become popular music. That's the music that people want to buy. That's the music that they want to listen to because they can dance to it. And unfortunately, as we'll learn throughout the rest of the semester, jazz became less and less popular with the larger populace, the group of people, because you couldn't dance to it. Small group jazz that we're going to get into later, following the swing era, where you get into jazz that was primarily improvisational and difficult to follow, and much more difficult. You couldn't dance to it because it was much different, and it didn't have that driving force necessarily. So people didn't buy it. You didn't buy the recordings because you couldn't dance to it. You know, it's like, I know I'm going to make a reference here that you may not be familiar with, but when I was growing up, there was a TV show called American Bandstand. You've probably seen, maybe Jasmine, I bet you're familiar with the movie or the theater, Hairspray. Yeah, okay. Oh, good. All three of you. So Hairspray is based on American Bandstand. And American Bandstand was where you got exposed to all this music that you would want to dance to. And all these bands would be featured. They'd be lip syncing, and it was really crappy. I mean, you'd watch them and they'd just be, they weren't even plugged into amplifiers or anything like that. It was pretty funny, but anyway, that's where you would get to hear all these different bands that then were promoting their recordings. And they would always have kids rate the song, you know. And, you know, how do you rate the song? Well, I give it about an 80. I could dance to it. You know, that was the classic response. I could really dance to it. And that's what swing was. I mean, swing was dance music. Yeah. What else resonated with you guys? Can't be wrong on any of this. I'm not keeping score or anything.
I unfortunately haven't had time yet to watch the entire thing. So I'm just kind of listening, I guess. I don't really have anything to say.
I understand. Sometimes, I mean, it depends on what your learning style is, but one of the things that I do so that I can keep things fresh, when I was first bringing up these videos and starting to look at them, what I did was you can actually copy the script. I don't know if you've tried doing that, but because these all come up with closed captions, you can copy the script and paste it into a Word document and read through the script on your own. Some people learn better that way. I'm kind of I'm a visual as well as an oral learner, so I like to read, and I learn from reading as well as from watching and listening. So I guess I kind of put it all together, and I learn better when I use all three. So, you know, you're reading it, you're watching it, you're listening to it. I'm one of those guys that watches movies and remembers the lines because I'm an oral learner. So there's lots of different ways to do that. So Sophia, if you can't maybe sit in front of your screen, you could actually copy and paste all of that script into a Word document, and you could, read it at your leisure. Yeah. Is there any, I know we talked, you actually, some of you contributed this in the forum, but what artist stuck out as being someone that you would like to learn more about from this chapter or this video? I know, Sophia, you haven't had it all yet, but maybe from Andrew or Jasmine.
That's exactly what I was actually about to say. Was I was blown up by Art Tatum and how he was blind almost completely, and it just
Well, let me talk about Art Tatum. He is, Jasmine, he is one of my all-time favorite jazz pianists. First of all, yes, he was blind for the most part. I mean, he could see light and shadows and things like that, but horrible vision. But he learned to play the piano by listening to piano rolls. Last week we talked, I think it was last week, we talked about Jelly Roll Morton. Jelly Roll Morton and the other person that I had mentioned way earlier, his name was Scott Joplin. Do you remember when we talked about Scott Joplin? They recorded their music using piano rolls. What they did was they would actually play their music on a piano that was connected to a machine that punched holes in paper that would then be played back through another mechanism that would actually move the piano keys and the pedals and everything. So that's how Art Tatum learned to play. He listened to those piano roll recordings. But what you don't know until now is that when those piano rolls were made, they were actually, it wasn't just like you played it one time through. You would go back and you would enhance what you played by adding some other stuff. So really, when you listen to a piano roll, it's not just one person playing it through one time. It's multiple entries. It's kind of like overdubbing. Like today, when you do a regular digital recording, you layer your recording. So I could do one pass on my trumpet, and if I made a mistake, I can go back and punch in and fix that. Well, that's what they would do. Plus, you ended up actually having more than two hands playing. So you could have up to 4, 6 hands playing the same things to get everything covered. So that's what Art Tatum did. He actually learned to play everything that were on those piano rolls that may have been played by 6 people. So he was phenomenal, just an amazing player. And when you listen to his work, Jasmine, you hear all the different ornaments that he'll do. Like he rarely will just make a statement musically. It'll be highly ornamented. Instead of going, happy birthday, he might go, happy birthday. I mean, it's way over everything. It's just very ornamented. I know that there are people who have a lot of difficulty listening to that because it's so fluid. But it's kind of like when you listen to some of the vocalists, like, do you remember who Mariah Carey is? Does anybody know who Mariah Carey is? She's very ornamental in what she does. Everything that she does has lots of Baroque-isms. She's all over the place. Well, that's what Art Tatum was. He couldn't just make a simple statement. He was very creative. And so, yeah, he's a monster. But then, so Jasmine, if you like, it's like when you go to Amazon. Well, if you liked this book, then you'll like So what I would recommend is if you like Art Tatum, you would also be interested in Oscar Peterson, because Oscar Peterson was influenced by Art Tatum. And that's what we were talking about earlier when you're trying to choose an artist. Who influenced that person? What caused them to play that way? So Art Tatum was very influential in the next guy, which would have been Oscar Peterson, in the lineage of great jazz pianists. And Oscar Peterson is also a monster, just amazing, amazing player. Others?
I feel like when it comes to Benny Goodman, he was like able to play over some of the other instruments in the bands that he was playing with, even though he was just on a clarinet.
Yeah, well, sure, absolutely. He was, first of all, he was the leader. So anytime you listen to a band and you find out who the leader is, that mix is going to be in their favor, kind of. It's like if you listen to a band like, oh, what was the name of the band? Genesis. Their leader was a drummer. And this is not a jazz band. This is a rock band. But because the leader of the band was a drummer, he put himself more forward in the mix than other people. So Glenn Miller, when I'm sorry, Benny Goodman. I keep doing that. But Benny Goodman, because he was a clarinetist, he would be closer on mic. And of course, during his recording period, they weren't using the horns anymore. As he got older and they started recording, they were using regular, what were they called? Dynamic microphones. And a dynamic microphone is a microphone that doesn't have any electronic enhancement, but it's basically like like the old style telephone. I don't know if, I'm dating myself again, but if you take the receiver off an old style telephone, unscrew it, you'll see that there's just like a paper membrane in there that vibrates when you talk into it, and then it's connected to an electric signal. So that's how the dynamic microphone worked, and he would be right on that. So he would be more likely to be up front in the recording. And I think that might be what you're hearing. But yeah, he was a great player. There's no doubt about it. And his background is in classical. He was trained classically by German classical clarinet players.
What was interesting too is with Benny Goodman, people started to like want more from his music and he couldn't produce so much more. Like I forgot where he was performing with his band. And then he used Henderson's like
Fletcher Henderson, yeah.
yeah, what's his name?
Fletcher Henderson.
Fletcher, yeah. Fletcher Henderson's like songs that he wrote, and then that's where popular music really started to just like become popular, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's really good, because to point out is that these bands were playing each other's arrangements, and somebody from the Benny Goodman band might end up going to another person's band, and they might just carry their arrangements with them. So it was not uncommon for different bands to play the same arrangements, though in some bands that didn't happen, like Duke Ellington's band. Very few people actually played Duke Ellington's music, because they kind of kept it to themselves. And his primary arranger was a guy named Billy Strayhorn. Even though Duke Ellington did write a lot of the music himself, Billy Strayhorn was also influential as an arranger of the music that they played. So not so much, you wouldn't hear like Benny Goodman's band playing Duke Ellington's music. But yeah, good stuff. Andrew, was that interesting? was that, I don't know. As far as, having the players come out front, you will hear that in multiple recordings of different bands. Find out who the leader is, and that leader will be the one that's highlighted the most in the recordings. Like Chick Webb's band, the drums are really out front. Other drummers like hold on, Gene Krupa. Gene Krupa played with Benny Goodman, and then he formed his own band because he wanted to be featured more. Other drummers like Buddy Rich, that name might ring a bell. Buddy Rich played with Woody Herman and the Thundering Herd. Actually, I don't know if it was the Thundering Herd, but we played with Woody Herman, and then he decided to form his own band. So drummers, all kinds of people do that. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to listen to a lot of Maynard Ferguson, who was a screaming high trumpet player. And Maynard played with Stan Kenton, who we will learn about later on this semester. So, he was a featured trumpet player, but then he ended up forming his own band. I don't know if you can see above my head, that's my dad's violin. I just happened to notice. My dad was a violinist, and my sister and I have his violins. This is his full-size violin, and then my sister, who lives in Florida, has his 3/4 size violin that I actually learned to play on. I started out with the 3/4, and then I ended up playing that one. But since I don't play the violin anymore, I had this one put in a frame. So it's always behind me. My dad's always looking over my shoulder.
Good stuff. This is a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
I like talking about it.
cool. So anyway, Sophia, I know you didn't get to see much of the video, but I would encourage you to see if you can get to that before the end of the week, because it's fun. There's some good stuff in there. And then what I'll do, I'll put together the forum for week 8. Not week. What are we in? We're in week 7 now, aren't we? No, it'll be forum for week 9. That'll give people some time because some people work ahead. I'll put the forum out there for week 9 so that people can talk about who they'd like to write about, who they'd like to research. And then we'll have the assignment made for week 10, but it won't be due until later on in the semester, near the end, like week 14, so people have enough time. And you can also have more people to choose from because that way we'll have more covered by the time it's due. Okay? Yeah. Anything else we should talk about? All righty. You guys stay well. And I will see you again next week at the same time, same station, but encourage others to join. If you, even if you said something in a forum that said, hey, we're having a great time, but it's just the 4 of us. So join in next week. Okay?
Yeah.
Peace out, everybody. I'll see you.
Thank you.